Welcome, welcome, my friends, to YouTooSpain Live. And this week I'll be asking our expert residency specialist, Chris from Upsticks, all about the financial requirements for the non-lucrative visa and his experience of the regional differences in interpretation of the rules in the south of Spain. We'll be talking from, Costa del Sol all the way up to Valencia province, I think, where he and his staff accompany clients to apply for residency. We'll also answer viewers' questions about anything else to do with visas and residency. And we have the questions. We do have the questions, but the answers, more importantly, to the frequently asked questions about moving to Spain or living here. We'll tell you about those in a moment. And finally, we'll be having one of our popular arguments about something topical. And I believe Chris has another Upsticks goodie bag to give away to whoever asks the best question or leaves the best comments. So get commenting now. You can do that on the live chat over there or down there, depending on which device you're watching. Or if you're watching the video back afterwards, do it in the comments below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can, because you are a part of this too. That's what this channel is all about. You are very welcome to YouTooSpain. Run the theme music and let's dance. Oh yes, that's groovy. And speaking of groovy, let's meet my regular fortnightly expert guest. He's my best mate and yours. It's Chris from Upsticks. Morning, mate.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good, very good. And it's a really clear day today, and the forecast is for rain, but we just seem to have a bit of a chilly breeze. What's it like on the coast?
Yeah, it's nice actually, really nice today. We predicted a storm on Thursday, didn't happen. Yesterday was okay, and today woken up to great sun, a little bit of a breeze, but yeah, it's I came in my t-shirt to work, so there you go.
Excellent. Yes, still a bit too cold to cross my garden in anything but this at the moment, but yeah, it's and I've got my first solo gig tonight. So looking forward to that. That one's indoors, but there was supposed to be one tomorrow, and it's looking a bit dodgy, and it's looking like it's going to be very windy down in Nerca. So that one might be postponed. So we'll have
That's
to
a
see.
shame. We were thinking about coming your way tomorrow. I feel like I'm missing the east of Malaga. I feel like I need to go to Torre del Mar or somewhere and just visit it. I always seem to be dragged that way, and Lara said about going to the coast, and I said I really want to go that way, but it's going to be windy. There's no point, I suppose.
Yeah, although the wind isn't going to be until sort of middle of the afternoon later on, I think. So you might be okay. That's when the gusts are getting up. But my gig's supposed to be at 5 o'clock, so that's when the most of the rain and the wind is going to be, I think. And that was an open air gig, and that's outside the venue, so. There's nowhere that people can sit outside in that.
That's good then, because under regulation 2482 of Spanish law, I have to have my pajamas on a Sunday by 5 o'clock. So I'll be okay. We'll be fine. We have to be back by then. It's part of the national regulation, I'm afraid.
Well, there you go. Well, if you're popping over this way, then let me know. Maybe meet up in Torre del Mar.
I will do.
Yeah, cool. So let's have some shout outs. Have you got any shout outs for clients while we look at the live chat?
I didn't have any planned really. No, it's been a very busy week this week, and we had some visas drop in as well. So I'll say hello to the Moss family who got their visas. So that was good. Who else got their visas this week? It's been crazy. So yeah, that's about it from me at the moment. I didn't prepare any shout outs at all. I did prepare the goodie bag though. Check these out.
Oh, very nice. That's very stylish. The black ones.
They go on your back.
Oh, nice. They're waterproof.
The YouTube version.
Lovely.
So that's you getting that. And if you're, and also we've got the pencil cases. Yay!
Oh, that's a new one. Not seen
It's a
that.
new one. There you go.
Brilliant.
So we've got 20 exclusive one of those to give away, as you can see. The logo's a bit wonky, but that's when it took 4 weeks to get here from China. That's how you get your logo. I'm not sending it back.
Never mind. It was meant to be. It was meant to be slightly.
Oh, and the Upsticks calendars. There you go. Look.
Oh, nice. Very, very good. Let's see who's on the live chat then. Adam Farmelo, morning all, bright eyes, bushy tails. Sun's out, washing's out here in sunny Wolverhampton. Wow, it's even sunny in Wolverhampton. Mad David says, good morning. Roger Burke, good morning from a slightly grey Torquay. Simon Blunden and Jason's Webb. Paul Cook. Anton Cares are on there. The Buenos Gentes. And Tony Cowless. I've not seen your name for a little while, Tony. Any news on the working visa, says Simon Blunden. I don't have any news on that. You heard anything about that?
I need to look at it, to be honest, because on the 20th of May they are changing the structure to a lot of the working stuff.
Okay, so we'll do a show on that.
Yeah, we need to take a look at that. I haven't studied it yet. We've been busy with the NLVs, but there's definitely some changes coming to Arrego and working, so which are positive.
Yeah. We'll have to decide what to do next week. Very soon. So anyway, and Robert Stubbs from Cooking Made Easy. Morning, guys, from a sunny Southampton for now. And Kez say, hit that thumbs up, folks. Yes, indeed. Barry from Unitech. Morning, everyone. Weather's nice here in Warrington today. My old neck of the woods. Still kitchen fitting, but taking a break for a brew and a watch. Good for you. And leave it running when you're not even watching. And El Davido is here, says good morning. And Jason's Web has a question. We'll come to that in a minute. Adam McGuinness. Morning, Scats and Chris. It's 18 degrees here in Tenerife, Spain. How lovely. Steve Moffat. Are you the one that writes was running Doctor Who? I've asked you this before, haven't I? There we go. And I think you said no. It would be lovely to get the other Stephen Moffat on. And Barry says, "Oh, nice, Mad David. Can you do voluntary work if you're on the NLV?" Well, that's a good question.
If you're legally volunteering, i.e., that you're a charity and the charity have you signed up as a volunteer and they're registered charity, etc., and you follow, then that's not a problem. It's if you're in a charity shop and the charity shop has registered volunteers, etc., and you can be legally volunteering, not a problem at all. But it's if you were to be volunteering at your mate's pub pulling pints that you might have a problem.
Yes. Barry says you need golf balls, Chris. Yeah.
At the moment, no, but thanks, Gary. Thanks, Barry.
And Jason will come to the NLV amounts for Andalusia and all of those other things that you're asking in a moment. And Kelvin Denham. Hi, guys. Tell Chris my house looks a mess. Stickers all over the place. He will understand. Good stuff. Oh, Beverly Gray's back with us. Good morning. Anton Kaz Gray with threats of sunshine. Ha ha ha. That's there over in France, about halfway up, I believe. And Jason says I can pick fruit and veg if someone wants to sponsor me. Interesting. And Steve Moffat says no, Scats, no, that not that Moffat. And yes, you have asked before. Yeah, I thought I had. And Tony Kellis needs some advice. Yeah, we'll come to those ones in a moment. So we'll get straight on with the main feature of the show, which is about what your questions are about. So let's go. The main feature is something like this. It's the main feature of the show. The topic's in the title. Woo! Woo! There you go. Okay then. So yes, the main feature of today's show is all about the financial requirements for the non-lucrative visas. So first of all, what do the rules say and why are they open to interpretation?
Yeah, so basically, and this is changing on the 20th of May, but it's not changing because they've basically stated the same. And as you may know, you may not know that the financial requirements are based on a system called EPREM. which puts, and you've got loads of content on that, so we won't go too much into that, but
Mm.
which puts the application at €28,800 for a single applicant and 36,000 euros for a couple, because after the first initial applicant, you then add 7,200 euros per family member if it's a family unit, basically. So that's what you need. And then just to explain that when you renew, the renewal process hasn't changed in terms of when you have to renew. There was a lot of palaver about it being a 4-year renewal. It's not, and that's not going to change either on the 20th of May. It's going to be, you get an initial year, then you get your 2 years, then another 2 years. And at the renewal point, depending on how your income is structured, you may have to prove you've got double that amount if you're using savings, and the income should be, if it's passive, considered as double over the 2 years. And that's where the verification that's where the differences come in the interpretation with the different provinces at times at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and then the other interpretations are basically about proof, aren't they?
Yes.
How to prove it.
Yes, so you've got starting off with the BLS office and the consulates, and then you've got on your renewal there. So just to explain the structure before we go into it, you've got in the UK, when you first apply for your visa, you go to the BLS office, which is subcontracted by the consulate to collect the documents. They then send the documents to the consulate, who then do the verification of the documents you've sent to them. And then when you come for renewal, it's completely different. And this is a lot of the questions that we get asked is, why did I have to didn't do a translation last year and I do this year? The reason is for your renewal, the documents that you put in for your financial stability, all the documents are submitted on a platform called Mercurio, which is a government-built platform for immigration, where you have to submit using a digital certificate, either a representative like us or yourself, the documents online, and they have different requirements to the initial application at the consulate.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Yeah. So, is there? So you're talking about BLS or the consulates if you're applying in a different country, from a different country rather. Are there differences in the interpretation between when you're applying for your visa with the financial requirements and when you get here and apply for your residency, for your TIE card? Are there differences in interpretation there, or do you have to have different documents and different ways to prove it?
Yeah, so certainly in we're talking about the initial application, I mean, the one good thing about the initial application is that the consulates seem to be more united now in what they understand. If you remember, in the past 5 years that we've been doing this or longer, we've had shows where it's been Manchester will accept 12 months and Edinburgh accept 3 now, and bank account statements. They all seem to be more united in what they're going to accept now. So the first thing to mention is that they don't require translations for the finances.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And also when it comes to actually presenting the documents to them, it's basically impossible to get stamps on things like bank account statements nowadays. So there have been more accepting of, in the last 18 months, of online bank accounts which have been printed off, which is great news for a lot of people, because before it was just a nightmare trying to get stamped and verified documents. Mm-hmm. So at the moment, as long as it's so if we're talking about an account which has, for example, regular income coming into it, which you can prove as a passive income like a pension, or it's an account which has got savings in it, you need to provide them with 6 months bank account statements. And so far so good. The last 12 months, 6 months bank account statements, albeit that I think on Manchester's website it still says 12, but we've had no problems with 6 months across the board with London, Edinburgh and Manchester at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Is that the same amount then? Oh, so carry on.
No, you carry on. Go.
I was going to say, is that the same amount when you're applying for your residency, for your TIE?
Yeah, so obviously when you've applied at the BLS office and your visa is in your hand, when you initially come to get your TIE card here in Spain, so we break that down into 2 stages. So we have stage 1, which is the presentation of everything you need to actually achieve the permission to come into Spain, which is the visa. And then stage 2, you have that permission at that time. So when you've got your initial visa, you don't have to present anything else at the police station here. It's when that, then you get your TIE card, which then will last for a year after the entry date into Spain. So when you've got your stamp and your passport, you enter Spain within your visa period, you then get your 12 months. But it's at the end of those 12 months or 60 days before when you can start to renew that permission. Basically, you're renewing your card, but what you're doing is you're renewing your permission, is when you then have to re-present the financial documents.
Aha. Yeah. Okay. So it's at the renewal where things go slightly askew.
That's where. So in the initial application at the moment, I mean, they have actually been very good with. Now we get more questions from it's really strange because we had this sort of. You have these crazy weeks. So we had a week last year where out of nowhere, Manchester decided to send letters to everybody who was applying, asking for further proof of the income and the source and explanations and stuff like that. And a couple of our clients really couldn't prove anything else. They'd given them everything they had, So I said, right, well, we've got to send updated bank account statements and send an even more detailed idiot proof letter, to be honest with you, telling them exactly how you meet the requirements, because there's nothing else we can do. You've already, and this is advice for people who are preparing their paperwork. So, for example, if you have a passive recurring income, it's a good idea to be able to prove that income going into a bank account for at least 6 months. If you can get 12 months, why not? But at least 6 months. And also have proof of the source of that income. So if it's coming from a pension, you may have a P60, you may have your state pension letter that everybody gets in April, but evidently they only come once a year. So not only can you, you can't consider that they understand that's an annual payment. So, you've got to, we know the P60 is what proves what you've got for the previous year, and then the following year you're going to get more. So we always think it's a good idea to have proof of the origin of the funds, even if it's not recently dated, and then proof that those funds are being paid recurringly, basically.
Right. I'm going to go to Jason's web. His earlier question, because I need to ask him a question before we can answer this one. He's saying, if I have 30,000 savings in the bank for year 1 NLV, but prove I have income to live off without the savings and I own a property, will I still need to show 60k for years 2 and 3? So the question I have is, where are you getting the income from? If you can answer that, then we can answer the rest of that question, I think.
Yeah, that's. But he's raised a very good point there, which actually I wanted to say today was surrounding the savings element, where the consulates are getting more at the front end. They're getting more vigilant to when people have savings. It's okay, fair enough. You meet the minimum required. You got this money, but what have you got any passive income, and what the source is, and also what the source of the savings is as well. So if you've sold a house, you're going to need a completion statement. I recently had a case which was really difficult because someone sold a vehicle. And it was a very expensive vehicle, but in the UK, it's sort of like, yes, mate, the money's in the bank, have the V5, see you later. There's no contracts involved. So I said, you're going to have to get a formal contract, and we're going to have to be able to prove the origin of those funds. So the fact that the V5 in your name, the fact that there was a contract that was sold, and the money going into the bank, and when that money came into the bank, make sure there's a reference to the registration of the vehicle and what it actually is. So these kind of things you have to be a bit vigilant with.
Indeed, yes. So we'll wait for an answer to that question of where you're getting the income from, and we'll come back to you, Jason. And Jason also said, what are the NLV amounts for Andalusia with the property taken into consideration, and Murcia also? We'll come to that in a minute, because that's the nature of the next set of questions. We'll answer Tony Carlos's question for advice. He says, I'm medically finished at work. Is it possible to apply for my NLV now, or do I need a P45?
In my experience, unfortunately, you need a P45. That's our experience. Now,
Okay.
to be fair, we haven't had many cases which are exactly like yours. I don't know your individual circumstance. I don't know if we've spoken before, Tony. If not, drop us a call and we can discuss it, or book a call. They're running in April now, unfortunately, but book a call in, even if you come in a couple of years. But yeah, we did have a case which was very similar, and the consulate just insisted on a P45. That was it.
Uh-huh. Great. Oh, Jason's answering the questions. I don't think it is income. He's saying he's got separate savings to live off and the 30K won't be touched.
Okay, yeah. So look, yeah, you can. So if it's you as a single applicant, then 30,000 is fine for that first year. And then when you come to your renewal, for sure, definitely for sure, you're going to have to prove if you've got the savings and what you've been living off during your first year, and what you intend to live off with the renewal as well. So if you've got savings to live off, then I'm assuming that if it's only savings on both fronts, you're going to have double for the renewal.
He's got a house as well, and that property was purchased in Spain from the house sale in the UK, presumably.
Yeah, I mean, with the house, the problem with the house is there, and it's in the new law as well. It doesn't particularly describe how much of the value of the property they take into account. So we have to discount the fact that there's no way we can say, oh, that house was 250K. They said we can use 10% of that value and discount that from the savings you need. That sort of equation just doesn't exist. So what we say is, look, when you've got a house, the best thing to do to present it, and it seemed to work with us in the past as well for people who might have been quite close to the line, is you get an up-to-date document called a notice simply, which proves that you are still the registered owner in the land registry. And then just send a copy of your deeds, or the first few pages of the deeds, which show what the purchase price of the property was at the time you purchased it, because that proves two things. It proves the price, the cost of the asset when you bought it. So that's how much money you've got invested. It may be worth more now, but and then the proof that you still own it. So we always find that that's quite a handy thing to submit with the applications. That's for renewal, by the way.
Yeah. So in theory, you still need 60K, but they could take the house into consideration. And you definitely have to prove where you get your separate savings from.
Yeah.
Okay. Hope that's answered the question. If you've got any more details you want covering, Jason, just ask. Steve Moffat, not that one, the other one, says, might be a silly question. What if you have enough funds to cover the NLV, cash to live off, etc., but it's in equity in the house? Do you need to have completed the house sale, or can you apply during?
No, you need to have the cash in the bank.
Yes, it's got to be accessible, hasn't it? That's
and they're getting stricter and stricter on the accessible cash. One of our biggest questions is, can I use my pension pot? So this is a huge question, and the honest truth is, yes, we've done a lot of visas where people have used their pension pot, but as a complementary to savings and proof of how they're actually going to be supporting their life in Spain. Yes, the pension pot has made up a percentage to get to the minimum amount, but you still have to prove things like how I always say it's good to have a net access value to that cash and be able to prove it, which is hard with documents at times, but you can't use equity in a house because you can't physically buy your San Miguel and your tomatoes with that.
That's because that's what we live off here.
Is that not what you live off? I don't. Joking.
No, it's red wine and cheese.
Red wine and cheese. That's it. San Miguel and tomatoes probably wasn't a good mix, was it? Really?
No, it wouldn't do your stomach any good. Mind you, the cheese wouldn't do your stomach any good either. So.
No, I'm trying. I had some hard cheese yesterday, like we discussed earlier on.
Yeah.
Poco.
I think I can answer this one. Andy Elmer says, "Good morning. I'm late again. Sorry. Which BLS office would I use living in Leicester, UK? That would be Manchester. I think if you lived slightly further south, I think Northamptonshire is the next one down, and that would be London, wouldn't it?
I think Northampton. I can't remember now. I've got it here.
Is that Manchester as well?
Yeah, because they divide the country. It's not like horizontal divides, is it? It's
as a diagonal,
25-degree angle. It's so I think
because Cambridgeshire that's London.
Cambridge is London, Lincolnshire is Manchester. So that's where the line runs.
Yeah, but Northamptonshire and Cambridgeshire are kind of almost level with each other. Which
I think Northamptonshire is Manchester. You know,
that's Manchester. So Leicester's definitely Manchester.
Manchester, definitely Manchester.
Yeah. Sorry about that. So it's a bit of a pain getting the train from Leicester to Manchester, but driving it's not too bad, I suppose. Anton Care's got not an NLV question, but for the EU autonomo type residency, what financial evidence do Spain require for meeting EPREM?
What financial? So if you are, it depends where you go. Actually, it's a very good question. So if you are registering, for example, in Malaga as an EU citizen who has autonomo, the first thing you do is actually get an NIE number. Go and get your autonomo. Well, we did this with you, didn't we? This is exactly what we did with you, Scats. So you get your autonomo sorted out first. And then, believe it or not, in Malaga, as long as you've got a couple of autonomo payments under your belt and you can show them, we actually did one. Now, I shouldn't really say this out loud, but we did one with no funds because they saw that the person was registered as autonomo. That is very rare. But normally they don't give us a minimum limit. But so if you've bought money, should we say, to start your business, so say you've got a minimum of 6,000 or 7,000 euros in your account, and and you haven't done a quarterly return yet, then they might ask, how are you going to survive? If you've only got 2 autonomo payments, have you got any invoices? Have you got any income coming into the account yet? Etc. etc. But here in Malaga, they're very flexible. Very flexible. In other provinces, not so much. So, as I say, we don't always do EU residencies in like Cadiz and Sevilla because it's quite far to travel. But certainly in places like Granada, they do want to see at least a quarterly return in the bank. So you've actually done, which if you're starting a new business in Spain, the first quarter may not be that good. And if you haven't, then you have to assume that they want to see at least 100% EPREM for the year, basically, which is around 7,200 in the bank per person, I would say, if you're both registering as autonomo.
So maybe I don't know if Anton cares if you're still thinking of Huelva or Cadiz, that kind of area, but maybe you could find out, Chris, if is there anybody you know down there who can help.
Yeah, I know that Cadiz are particularly funny with the EU residencies. So the thing is sometimes they contradict themselves because they'll say we want to see 2 tax returns, especially in places like Alicante. And you're like, but then you're breaking your own rules because you tell me after 90 days, albeit I'm an EU citizen, I'm obliged to register. And they're saying, well, you can't come back in 3 months, So that happens a lot as well.
Jason's saying it's annoyingly so high to prove EPREM in Spain. Portugal is only 9k. Why is Spain so high? Because Portugal are more desperate to get people moving there, I think.
I don't know.
Supply and demand, I think, is the simple question. That's how you control the number of people coming in and out.
Yeah. EPREM's actually low. It's the percentages that they make you press 4 times. It's 4 times EPREM that they want. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, to answer that.
There we go.
No, Portugal.
And okay. So just before we continue, viewers may have noticed there's a QR code up in the corner, top left-hand corner, sorry. And if you've learned something of value to you today, or if you've been entertained, or will be entertained in the rest of the show, then as well as clicking on the like button and subscribing, use that QR code in the corner to help us help you. If everyone puts the cost of a cup of coffee or 3 into the pot, then the electric keeps working and I keep smiling because I run on pure electricity. So we'll get back to the NLV now. So
Northamptonshire is Manchester.
it is. There we go. Yeah. So it's anything south of Northamptonshire. That's the lowest point, isn't it? Yeah. But
Just
yeah,
for
like you say, it's a bit diagonal. It goes down, then it goes down towards the southwest. All of the southwest is down Cornwall and places like that. That's all London.
Yeah.
Yeah, and okay, so let's see. My next question was going to be something that you've already talked about. It's not just to do with the amount of money that you need in passive income and savings. That's kind of fixed. That's the rules.
Yeah.
But it's the interpretation of what proof you need and how to show that proof. So maybe we should look now at the regional differences and tell us a bit more about what you've experienced with clients in different regions.
Yeah. So once we've got through the first year and you've proven your savings and your passive income, when you come to Spain, obviously, then we submit on the Mercurial platform to the different provinces. And what we've noticed is across the provinces, especially this year, that a lot of them are a lot stricter on certain things that they ask for when it comes to the documentation. So Alicante, funnily enough, who were quite tricky at using cash assets which are held overseas, at the moment seem to be pretty good. They're accepting it. The last 3 or 4 months, they've been very good. We always say to people, look, if you have got cash assets in the UK savings and you're using it for your NLV renewal, if they don't accept the documentation that we provide, then I'm afraid you're going to have to move that over to Spain and get something from a Spanish bank to prove that the asset's actually in Spain. And we also have to prove where it's come from. So we've got the original proof of where it's come from, and then we've got the new funds in Spain, which prove that that it's actually here. So Alicante, for example, great region at the moment, seem to be flying along with any foreign assets, including we recently had one approved on premium bonds, which is a plus. I hate seeing premium bonds because you can never guarantee they'll accept them, and you have to provide a translation of the premium bond statement. But that acceptance came through, and for a spouse, and then the other spouse, so it was a man and wife in this situation, sent exactly the same documentation in. 2 files exactly the same. Okay, and funny enough, they both qualified individually as well, so there was plenty of meat on the bone to go at. One got an approval and one got a requirement letter saying, please prove how you're going to support yourself in Spain.
Huh.
Okay, so
That's the same office.
This is the same office, signed off by the same person and the same paperwork.
Somebody with a very bad memory, obviously.
So this is just what you're up against a bit. But then when you do get that letter, you've got to read the letter and see what it says and see how best to respond. Okay, so a part of the letter is their standard template. And the problem as well is they don't specifically go into cases a lot of the time, aside from a Malaga thing I'm going to tell you about in a minute. So, but part of that letter did say that if you're part of your income and savings is in a joint is in a joint, it's in a marital state. So I'm trying to say it in Spanish. I'm like in my head, in a marital condition.
Status. Yeah.
Yes, my head's thinking in Spanish this morning. You're going to have to prove it by giving us an updated marriage certificate, apostilled and translated, which they only give you 10 working days to produce, but can be achieved. So that's exactly what we did. And also offered a further explanation to the passive income and more translations. We're waiting for the outcome of that, so I'll tell you that. But we've never been asked to notarize documents or anything from Alicante, for example. Now, if you move down to Almeria or up to Almeria, if you're in Alicante, Almeria are not very forgiving, again, on assets which are abroad. Okay, a lot of the time, unfortunately, they do prefer in Almeria to see the funds in Spain. That's been our experience with them. So for some reason, they have accepted it in the past pension pots from the UK when we explained that you can't actually move that out without doing a certain operation, that the funds are there, and this is what people are living on. You don't need 36,000 euros a year to live off, but you need to prove you've got access to that cash. If with a pension pot, if you can prove that, then if someone's living off 12 grand a year, as long as they've got that access and they've got the 12 grand and it's recurrently coming into a Spanish account and you can prove the origin, then that's good as well.
Mm-hmm.
But
So,
it's when you're talking about the passive recurring income, if you're using UK accounts and you're not bringing it regularly to Spain once you've got your money into the UK, so maybe you get paid a pension in the UK and you just keep a minimal amount in Spain, and we have to use that as proof, it could be a problem in terms of it's going to cost you a fortune in translations, because you have to translate the whole year's worth of statements, and B, if they don't like the statements initially, how are we then going to prove that passive recurring income is supporting your life in Spain?
Okay. Any other regions that are different from that?
Malaga we've had a right spanner in the works in Malaga the last 2 weeks, and this is one that we're still studying and we're going through it, because Malaga were particularly good at accepting documents from abroad. We recently had one from the United States, which got a renewal approval only yesterday, I think it came in, and there was social security documents translated from the US proving pensions, etc., and that was absolutely fine. But then this week, out of absolute nowhere, they've asked us on 2 specific cases for bank account statements which have been notarized, apostilled, and translated from the UK. Okay, right, showing the average balance of the previous year. And we're seeing this more and more and more in Malaga, and in other regions like Murcia, we've seen it as well, where they not only want to see if you've got savings, the current amount of savings you've got in the account, but they want to see where you've held those savings, the origin, and your what they call the average balance, to make sure that nobody's just giving you that money for renewal purposes, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, we are going to have to get the notarized, apostilled and translated statements. But another way around that, if they ask you, would be to say to move those funds into a Spanish account, get a verified document from a Spanish bank, and just say, look, I can prove a translation the balance in my account in the UK, but now the funds are actually here. So you basically create the story, the journey of the funds.
Mm-hmm. Great. Are there any other unusual stories of huge differences between regions?
Another one which is coming this week, which was for Malaga, which I am still waiting for the answer from 3 bank directors for, who haven't answered me back, was we got a request for an embedded digital signature on a bank statement. Okay.
Wow.
Now, yeah, this is pretty well. I don't really know even the banks, because normally a physically stamped bank statement, or one which is downloaded from the bank's platform with a CSV code on it, has always been fine across the board. These documents do exist. So, for example, if you've got a digital signature from the FMNT, that the same people who make your TIE cards and they make your driving licenses, they also issue the digital signatures. That you've probably got one, Scat, so I've got one. We can go on a PDF and we can actually use that signature to embed our digital signature on it. And as long as it's emailed to somebody, not printed and given to them, the person who receives that can verify that signature is original digitally, right? Mm-hmm. But we've never seen that at an immigration level, because banks just don't want to do it. They're not going to do it. Banks are a pain anyway most of the time, especially people who've got savings in banks, because they don't give you proper statements and stuff. And we actually got a request for one of those. So I was talking to our manager, who just looked at me googly-gook eyes and said that I'll come back to you on that one. I need to speak to our bosses, and no one's responded yet. So we've got to see what we can produce for that.
That is a tricky one. I should say hello to Yogi. Thanks for the donation there. Great to see you guys again. And he's back in the gym this morning. So it was brilliant to see you. And anyone who's not seen the short that I put out yesterday, that's got some of Yogi in that. So yeah, if you've never seen him, you can see his happy smiling face chatting away while we're having a lovely Indian meal in Nerka. And that was lovely. So Tony Carla says, if my wife applied for NLV, could I piggyback off her? Generally, we call piggybacking when somebody's an EU citizen and a non-EU citizen piggybacks off that. So it's not called piggybacking, really, is it? It's just called being the spouse of somebody on the NLV.
Yeah. I mean, what's the reference there? Is that to piggybacking off of her finances, or is she coming for 2 years and you're going to piggyback 2 years later using her finances, or is it your finances? A bit more info there needed, really. But yeah, let us know. Or, as I said, book a call, Tony.
Great stuff. Matt David, this is a good one. Can you sum up what would be the perfect scenario for obtaining the NLV for a couple? And I guess this would have to be for any region. What would work? What would be guaranteed to work, I suppose?
Well, I mean, what would be... Now, this is a very good question. And, David, I'm glad you brought it up, because this goes back to what a lot of conversations that I have with people who have passive recurring income from pensions but don't have the savings, are convinced after looking at Facebook that they still need the savings in the bank. Okay, you don't. In theory, if you had zero in your account but you had proof of the passive recurring income meeting the minimum EPREM, okay, then you would still get an NLV. That's initially what it was designed for. You know, it's designed for people who have their level of income and they're going to be spending it and they're retired. Okay, so in that scenario, there's no problem at all. So if you've got the 36k between you and you can prove it, then you wouldn't need you don't need the savings. Now the ideal scenario would be that you had the savings and the recurring income, because the consulate are going to look at it and go, oh, brilliant, that's great. Yeah. And also means that when you come to renewal, then we can say, oh, actually, this is what they live off, but they've already got this. Then you guaranteed the guarantee. That's a bigger guarantee to get your renewal the first time. But yeah, it's there's no set structure. Or we can always say we never have any problems, once we've spoken to people. But imagine someone who's got the passive recurring income of 36,000, which is only ever going to go up, then you suppose they would never have a problem with the renewals either. Whereas people with savings get asked more questions a lot of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you'd need a thoroughly perfect healthcare cover and no criminal record and all of the other.
Of course, yeah. Or an S1. That's even better.
Or an S1.
The S1s are, with, again, Almeria have had a wobble on, I'm not going to say the name of the company, but there's one particular product where they didn't like the certificate, which has been used hundreds of times, and suddenly they denied a load of renewals because they didn't basically like the certificate and the conditions. So there's companies had to update the certificate and resubmit them. So they do have changes in interpretations, even specifically on certain parts, of the renewal.
Great stuff. Oh, Jason says, I've heard Spanish banks don't pay interest on savings. Are there any ISA similar products in Spain? No, they don't tend to pay interest on savings.
No, it's a pain.
And I don't think there's not an equivalent to the ISA. That would be a question to ask Lucia Malgarejo when she comes on the show every 3 months, or you can get in touch with her directly. And I think, yes, her details are in the video description. So get in touch with her about that and she'll tell you about all the different options that you have there. There are they're not called ISAs, but there are products that you can put your money into which will earn specific amounts of savings, kind of around 4 or 5%, I think. There you go. And Dale says, is it worth paying an accountant to do the declaration de la renta? That's your tax declaration. I just don't have the time or the patience for the red tape. Well, yeah, I would say yes, because there are complications on the forms that I don't understand, and
I really don't. I think I've met one of my friends who decided to do it themselves. Even Spaniards pay a gestor to do it. You know, so yeah. Apart from the fact that people like gestors, they have the platform, and yeah, definitely pay an accountant to do it.
yeah, make sure they're qualified, not just any old gestor, because they're not necessarily qualified accountants.
Yeah.
So, yeah, get a recommendation. Go to Antonio, as his details are in the video description below. And Dale Bates says, I make minimum wage anyway. Well, that'll be a fairly easy one then. You know, you'll only need to pay off a one-off fee every year, I should think, to a gestor to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is well worth making a declaration. Well, yeah, if you've got any kind of wage, you do need to. And Nelly has a question. Do you have to keep savings and income in a Spanish bank, or can you keep it in a UK bank? That's a good question.
Always better to keep it in a Spanish bank if possible, but we're not saying they don't accept UK banks, but they have been more and more tricky on accepting savings and the translations which are needed for UK and overseas banks.
Great stuff. So, anything else that you want to say about the differences before we say goodbye to the special feature of the week and move on?
No, I think it's just a case of, look, there are regional differences. So you've got to, and when you come in on your NLB, just thinking about how you're going to set up for the following year, is a good thought. And more having a Spanish bank or a high street account at the moment might be a good idea as well, in case you did have to move any money about or get your income regularly paid into it. It's all about the verification of documents, basically.
Great stuff. So if you've got any more questions, we do have a section called Ask Us Anything You Like. So we'll answer them then, and we'll carry on answering them throughout the show. So that's the end of our feature for this week. Smash the like button into smithereens, my smashing friends, and especially if you've got some information you need from today's topic. And while you're here, make a note of Chris's website, upsticks.es, where you can find articles about everything to do with visas and residency, and also moving your car to Spain. And don't forget about Chris's YouTube channel as well, which
you need to get to 5,000 subscribers. Come on, guys, tell your friends, or just what you want to do now is go around your house and just all your family's phones, just hit subscribe. Don't even tell them.
Yeah. Sneaky. I've not even thought of that.
I was doing that when I went out to England. Kiss your phone a minute. There you go. That'll do.
Brilliant. Good one. Okay, then. Let's, yes, actually, our next feature is Ask Us Anything You Like. So here's the jingle. Ask us anything you like, as long as it's to do with moving to Spain or living here. Thank you. Thank you. There we go. And we do have some questions already. Dale Bates is saying, is there a service for simplifying Spanish red tape? He's thinking of getting the Certificado Digital, but all the messing about makes my head spin. Yeah, definitely get a digital certificate. That does simplify a few things, because they are moving to a lot less paperwork and more online stuff. But the best way for simplifying Spanish red tape is to have a very good gestor. Yeah, I can agree with that.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike Fisk says, good morning, Chris and Scats. Are there any changes expected to allow couples not able to obtain marriage certificates to be able to be approved of as a couple for financial requirements on the renewal of the TIE?
I mean, normally for the renewal, as I mentioned before, that they requested one in Alicante, but normally for renewal, as long as the assets are in a joint account and you can prove that, and you initially applied together as well, it's not normally a problem. If they do request a marriage certificate and you can't get one, then we have to go back at them with exactly stating what I've just said. So all the proofs of its properties in common, your joint padron, the fact that you've got married and will prove why you can't get a marriage certificate because of where you were married. They just don't offer that particular service to get it that quickly, etc., etc. So as long as, and we always say with immigration, you know, honesty is the best policy, and a lot of the times you have to literally put that in a letter to them if there's a circumstance which is possible to achieve.
Have you got an article about this on your website
I
about
don't
whether
know.
you should be married or be, you know,
Probably.
ways of proving you're a couple?
I probably should do a video, really.
Yeah, I'm just thinking what video to do for this this Wednesday coming, and that would sound like a good one because I've seen the question being asked quite a lot.
Yeah, that's a good video. I need to do more now. I've got this this setup here, so yeah, there's a lot of FAQs.
Definitely. And so we have some French canards to line up here, and when they finally line up, we'll be in touch to Chris to line up some Spanish patos. So yeah, get your ducks in a row.
Yeah,
brilliant. And Jason's web has answered Dale's point. Yes, the best way to simplify Spanish red tape is called upsticks, and there it is, of course. And Dale is saying thank you, Jason, looking into it. And Anton Kez say, yeah, to simplify things, go to Chris at Upsticks, and good gesture. Both Scats and Chris know these. Good luck. Yes. Oh, there was a question that was from the internet. Carol Clifford. Let's just put this one up on screen. And I didn't warn Chris about this one, but it's... there we go. It says she's moving to Spain around September this year as a UK resident with an Irish passport on the NLV status, and wondering what will be the best time to apply for residency, straight away or wait a few months.
That actually could be dictated by a couple of things. A, where you're going. So places like Alicante, Murcia, and slightly northern regions actually want you to be in Spain for a certain amount of time with the funds in the bank. So as I said, it contradicts what they say regarding doing it within 90 days if you are an EU citizen. They say, well, if you tend to spend more than 90 days, then you have to register as a resident. And then when you go to the extranjería, they say, oh, no, you haven't had the money in the bank for 6 months, so you can't have your residency. So, you know, and we know that EU citizens aren't getting kicked out, that it's basically more of an administrative exercise because you need residency to continue your life in Spain if that's what you want to do, rather than being bound by the Schengen rules. So if you can, for example, do it straight away, because like here in Malaga, they'll allow you, if you got proof somewhere to live or signed on the Padron, you've got funds just in a bank of over 7,000 euros and your healthcare in place, they'll give you the residency within the first week, to be honest with you. Whereas if you have a structure where you're having to prove, again, passive income, or if you're self-employed or waiting to get a job, then you may have to delay the process of residency till you've got your, as Ankez says, your canards in a row or your paddles in a row, because you just won't have the paperwork on your desk when you first get here.
Yeah. Oh, just to remind, I did actually reply to Carol and say, you don't need to be on NLV status if you have an Irish passport.
So, sorry. Yeah, she mentioned NLV. I went straight to EU there. Yeah. There's a huge confusion with people who have switched to Irish passports about the Schengen and the visa process of it. People call it a visa. When should I get my visa in Spain? It's not. It's residency. You're on an EU platform.
Yeah. And it's not actually, you don't have to apply for residency, you just have to register. There's a difference between that, because officially you don't need permission because you're an EU citizen.
It goes back to that thing we said. Where's my... Oh, I was going to show you. There we go. Yeah, there you go. There's the EU residency card.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. That's the EU residency card.
Yeah.
See, it says on it, registro. It doesn't say permiso.
Yes, indeed. And it's a floppy thing, and it's not got your biometric details on. We'll come to biometric details in a minute with the frequently asked questions. Dale says, is it my imagination, or is the Spanish weather becoming just as unpredictable as it is in the UK? Well, certainly this year it's been wet for most of March and part of February, and it's that's the wettest that a lot of people have seen for a long time, certainly since I've been here.
Yeah,
So,
it's been, I'll be honest, it has been in my 25 years, which I'm celebrating in 2 weeks, 25 years in Spain. It's been the longest sustained wet period that I think I can remember.
yeah, definitely. But it's difficult to know whether whether that's climate change or it's just weather cycles that do happen. But I think climate change has got something to do with this. We're going to get more extreme. There's a good chance that after this there'll be more extreme heat in the summer.
Yeah, I think there possibly could be.
Yeah, but at least it's filled the reservoirs up. We were talking about this the other day, weren't we, on your live show?
Yeah.
Some of the reservoirs are up to 80, almost 90% in some parts of, Seville is really almost up to 90, and that's just in Andalusia. But further north in Spain, the reservoirs are up to a really high level.
Let's hope that they teach the children and everybody is a little bit more sensible with the water now they're full, rather than waiting for it to be a drought and then put restrictions and teach everybody how to use water efficiently. Because if they'd have done that the last time the reservoirs were full, we might not have found ourselves in the drought situation we were, because it's just crazy. So there's a lot of education mission in Spain, I believe, with water use. I know our kids don't get taught anything at school. I'm not saying it's the school's responsibility, but it's something that really annoyed me in the drought when we've seen people with hose pipes and stuff. And it's just 6 months ago we were having a completely different conversation about how you have to reuse, catch the water to brush your teeth, to water your plants type thing. And I think that kind of education is really needed now, because everybody's seeing so much water and people are, we'll just use it. But eventually this may not happen again for 3 years, this cycle.
Yeah, very true. I do think it should be taught in schools. It's important, especially in southern Spain, because
we need to be teaching the kids. I was talking to my kids about the importance of where we are now. This is fantastic. We're in southern Spain. We've got loads of water in the. Let's maintain that, because we don't know when this next level of rain's coming. I might be completely wrong, and we get washed out every year though. So who knows?
Yeah, we might have desalinization plants, or more of them, in south of Spain certainly by the time your kids have grown up. But that's no excuse. Yeah. Well, the mayor of the mayor of Nerja or Torrox was talking about it, and saying as one of the improvements that's going to happen. Yeah. Okay, so we'll be getting in touch in April, right? How to update the NIE following EU passports. And is April still okay for you, Chris?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, drop us an email. We'll get drop us an email now, and I'll get the diary looked at. So it's been we're having to take a couple of weeks in the UK this month and late last month. It's turned into an interesting month for me here at work. So, but that's we're all caught up now, so we can start planning ahead for April now.
And Jason says, do EU residents still have to prove funds?
Yep.
Yeah. Although it's just not as many. Dale says, at the bottom of the road there's a place called Laguna del Sapo, and has always been dry. The last 2 years there's been a lake there. Yeah, we've got a river called Rio Seco, and it's not Seco anymore. It's not looking dry at all. It's kind of a torrent the other day. And it says, same as Chris, 20 plus years, France, never seen before the last 10 dismal months and little sign of it getting better. Yeah. Dale says, good point about education and water use. People my age, 50 to 70s in Spain, they're very conscious of water use. Youngsters have no idea, and Brits over here are terrible, to be fair. Yeah, I think people with pools, we've got a pool, but, we're conscious of it. Answers, thinking of building an ark. Yeah, no, I don't think you'll need an ark, unless there's such a thing as a dry ark. That's probably what Elon Musk is building somewhere. Yeah. Anyway, I won't mention him again. So I think that's the end of that thing. I think we'll move on to carry on asking questions if you want. But a quick plug for some other friends of mine before we continue. Let's just put up the special QR code. I always say, I've told you so many times about all of the brilliant advantages. So all I'm going to say today is this: use the smart currency exchange. And if you use the link in the comments below, or that QR code that's on the screen now, as well as getting a free account and free advice in your own very lovely personal broker, you'll actually be helping YouTooSpain as well at no extra cost to you. And that, as always, is a win-win-win with a cherry on top. Now, I've put so many things on the screen, I'm going to have to remove them. How do I get rid of that? The QR code, you can get to those details below. There we go. So let's move on to the frequently asked questions. Well, I'm not sure we'll have time for the argument. We'll make it very short, the argument today. And here we go. Frequently asked questions. Goes like this. FAQs just for you, but some of them might not be so frequent. So frequent. There we go. And so we have some answers to this, and it's all to do with the announcement this week or last week that the EES is finally coming in October. Chris, you said the 5th of October, I think it is.
I think I saw yesterday when I was doing 10 minutes of research for the video that I did in 5 minutes that it said the 5th of October. I think we might still go on William Hill and have a tenner on that they'll put it back again, though, don't you?
Oh, well, yeah. Although the reason it was put back the last time was because I think it's Germany, France, and Holland weren't quite ready with their systems to integrate them into the whole system of EES. But they're now saying that they're going to be ready to. Who knows? And I'd be prepared to bet against it. So we should run a book on the show. I'm not sure we're allowed to do that, but there we are. So the first question was, when is it due to happen? We've already answered that. And what is it, very briefly?
Well, you want to answer that one. You know more than me, don't you, really? It's the controlling, it's a digital control of people coming in and out of the country, isn't it? So
it's just registering who's coming in and out. Mm-hmm. And it's done with biometric details. The second question is, who has to have their biometric details taken? And what are the biometric details? There we go. Yeah, the TIE card already has the biometric details on it. So it's your fingerprints, and is it eye recognition as well?
And fingerprints and eye recognition. I think that what they were saying was that so they're going to take fingerprints, it's eye recognition, because they're going to scan your passport. You're already doing it in places like Stansted, aren't we, where you go in and you scan your passport. I know, because I got in trouble because of the state of my passport the other day, because the scanner wouldn't read it. It doesn't run out till next year, but I've been told by the immigration officer that you need to do it now because the pages shouldn't be ripped and fall into bits. So they're definitely getting a lot stricter on it. And and then for people, because they're going to be controlling the Schengen days for people who are legally allowed to be over Schengen days because they have residency in a country, they're going to have to use one of these.
Yeah. So basically, who has to have their details taken? It's anybody who's non-EU citizen.
Basically.
So even if you're a resident of Spain, if you're a resident of Spain and you've got your TIE card, you won't need to have your details taken because it's already on your TIE card. But everybody else will need to. I think it's about 3 years they keep your details on there. And so to begin with, you'll first need to register with your fingerprint, your handprint, your eye recognition when you go through the first time when EES comes in. And then you won't need to each time you go through because they'll just scan your passport and those details will still be there. So people talking about, there's going to be delays forever because of this and everybody's going to take longer to go through. It doesn't take that long for them to take the handprint if the machine's working properly, and the eye recognition is just the photograph that they take when you go through the little booth. that snaps that, and face recognition and all that. So I don't think it's going to take that long. I think that any problems are going to be with the whole system logging it and registering it. If it's working efficiently, then it should be all okay.
It could be quicker.
It should be quicker, because then you won't have the guy at the desk looking very, very carefully at your passport and looking, and they're not just checking your photograph to see whether it's you. They're holding it under a special light, and they're looking at the different patterns on there that are on passports, because those are the things that are the most difficult to fake. So they're looking at various things, whereas the scanner should be able to do that instantly.
Yeah.
So the question is, will Spain residents, and this was what was in the news this week, will Spain residents be able to use their old green card, which is like the EU card that you just showed? There it is. Or will they definitely have to get their TIE cards?
You will no longer be able to use under the EES system this card if you're a UK citizen and you're still holding this card, and because in theory it's still proof of your right as a beneficiary of the withdrawal agreement. You will now definitely have to switch it for one of these.
Yeah.
We've been
What will happen then if you go through? You'll just have to get your passport stamped as if you're not
and
a
you
resident
could be
of Spain.
considered to be wrongly overstaying in the country.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, that's the UK government put a notification of that out on their website yesterday. And I mean, we've been banging the exchange drum for a long time now, and I know even before some people said, "Oh, you don't have to do it because it's still proof of the withdrawal agreement." I'm like, yeah, but it's always going to happen. This is always going to have an expiry. It's always going to have an end date, And in theory, everybody should have exchanged now anyway, because we're 5 years after Brexit. So even after 5 years, you have to change this for a permanent one if you're a EU citizen. So there shouldn't be anybody with these who are British citizens living in Spain. But if you have got one, now's your last chance saloon to get it swapped.
Great stuff. Mad David says, sorry to give you a nudge, but you missed one of my questions. I was just scanning up to see which question it was, but I can't find it. Can you just ask again and we'll answer it for you? Sorry about that.
And if it's an easy one.
If it's an easy no, we can answer anything you like. Anything you like.
Anything.
And Jason says ETIAS has been pushed back to the late 2026, 27. Yeah, the theory is that when EES comes in, there will be the trial EES period of 6 months, and then ETIAS will come in. So it could be as early as, if it's October, then it's November, December, January, February, March, April. It could be April the 5th by the time ETIAS comes in at the very earliest. But yes, it's more likely to be late 2026. I'd gamble on that. Andy Aylmer says, how do you renew your passport, Chris? Are you talking about your UK passport, renewing it while you're in Spain?
Yeah, easy online passport. Just recently did it for Lara, and I'm going to do mine now because of the troubles with travelling and my knackered pages, basically. And it's a really easy online process, to be honest. You take your own photo, just follow, if you literally Google renewing your passport from abroad and follow the online process, as I said, did to the kids, you take the photo on your mobile. And Lara, actually, credit where credit's due, the passport office sent it back within, I think it was 16 days.
Wow, that's quick. That's
really
quicker than I used to get it back at home.
Yeah, DHL, and it went straight up. We sent it with our couriers, MBE, big shout out for those, and they sent it back within 17 days, I think it was, which was good because it allowed her to travel back with me last time, because we didn't think that was going to happen. So they do give you up to a month. They say it's going to be a month, but no, we were really shocked. And the tracking is very good as well. They do send you updates. So, yeah, it works really well from Spain. It's an easy online process.
Good stuff. Maybe I should do a video about that, and the Irish passport as well, because Liz is renewing her UK passport soon. I think that's it's got to be done this year. Dale says, I've worked here in the same job for 27 years. I'm just a few years short of retirement. Is it complicated to get the state pension? Is it worth applying for Spanish citizenship?
You don't have to have Spanish citizenship to receive your pension. I believe when I spoke to Antonio about it, that it doesn't make any difference to the amount of money that you're going to get paid. So in that respect, you don't need to. Really, as a permanent resident here, you have all the rights of a Spaniard anyway. There's no real need to take Spanish citizenship unless you obviously want to be a European citizen and give you that freedom to move in the EU. But in terms of the process, I'll tell you in about 20 years. I don't know. Again, goes back to having a good gestor just to look over it all, doesn't it? You know, if you've been here working the same job for 27 years, I'd imagine you've got somebody doing your tax return, speak to them about it. You may have to pay them 30, 40 euros just to double check your situation and get it lined up, but it's well worth it to make sure it's done correctly.
Yeah, and Dale says he renewed his passport online in Spain and it was surprisingly easy and quick. It's good to have further confirmation. Mad David, I didn't actually see this question earlier on, but I was just wondering if you guys know anybody who specialises in importing my shotguns to Spain.
No. I can tell you though that you have to have a course. So this is crazy. So this is one of, the psicotechnicals that do the medicals for the driving licenses. They also do the medicals for people who have arms licenses. And
yes, they do.
Mm-hmm. So once you've got your arms license, which means taking a Spanish course, which can last up to 2 or 3 days, and they even make you do things like this if you want to fish inland. Yeah, so if you want to fish on the sea, it's not a problem. It's €3 and you got a rod and you can sit on the beach. But if you want to go do a fishing, they call it caza and pescar and stuff like that. There are various levels of courses that you have to take to get the license. And then to renew your license, it's very similar to renewing your driving license. You have to go and have a medical, and then that is renewed based on your. And what they do, and I've been told, because I've got friends who Spanish friends who have a lot of land, is they actually also check that you're mentally allowed, the psychology checks.
Oh, good.
How far they go, because a lot of my mates are mental anyway. No, but you got a shotgun. Yeah, no worries. What do you use it for? Well, but in terms of importing it into the country, no clue.
Is there like a test like the driving license? You know, the driving license, you have to go on that funny machine. Is there like a shotgun test where you have to,
I don't know,
like a video game?
Isn't it?
That'd be interesting.
It's mainly just like your eyesight and stuff. So the driving license test, I recently did that, and it came, that does say 1988 on the game that they make you play.
Yeah, it's a fabulous game.
Yeah.
Andy Elmer says, thanks, great show with so much information. And GoFundMe, there you go. Hover over that. And Andrew Fry says, I'm from the UK, so not a EU citizen. The embassy in the UK is telling me how difficult it is now to move to Spain with my family. Interesting that they're telling you that. It is more difficult than it was when you were an EU citizen. Certainly.
Yeah.
There's no denying that. And this is a tax question from me too. What are the differences between taxes you have to pay for the purchase of a property in Spain as a resident and taxes you pay as a non-resident? Right, what you need to do is look at a video of when I had an expert all about that. I think the one with Lucia Melgarejo, we talked about property taxes as a resident. And it's when Antonio was on. So look just back a few weeks on YouTooSpain channel, the program I did with Antonio the Gestor, and it tells you all about the taxes and as non-residents as well. That he covered that point completely, and we'll answer that question in detail for you. And Kes says 40 viewers and 21 thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up, everybody, if you haven't already. Thanks for the reminder of that, Ant. And right, let's go to the argument very, very quickly then, so we can. This is the fun part of the show. mind you, we've had fun doing everything, haven't we? So here we go. Let's have the jingle. Here it goes. Chris says, Scat says, Chris says, Scat says, it's the big argument. Oh, yes, the big argument. Now, normally, what we do here is I tell Chris what the topic of the argument is going to be in advance so he can choose his side and prepare his argument. But instead of that, we've decided that today would completely surprise Chris with the idea. So he has absolutely no idea what it's going to be about. So let's see if this is more fun. And of course, you out there, you can all join in with on the live chat or in the comments. So the big question, and it's a very, very big and very important question. It's very serious today. It's related to the video I brought out on Wednesday, which was a hugely exciting piece of news for me. And that's all about the massive, phenomenal event that's coming to Malaga in September. First time in over 50 years that this event is having an international wing that's happening outside of the USA. And that is, of course, Comic-Con. If you've seen Big Bang Theory or the film Paul with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, or you've read a comic ever in your life, or seen a Marvel Universe film, you'll know about Comic-Con. It's huge. There's about 130,000 people turn up every year in San Diego for the convention. There'll probably be more like 60,000 people in Malaga, and most of them will probably be dressed up in some kind of cosplay outfit as their favourite character. So the question is, who's your favourite character and who would you dress up as? These might be two different answers. Now, I mean, we can narrow it down a bit if you want, because this could be the whole of comic books, or we could just go for the Marvel Universe or the DC Universe.
Oh, that's a good question, that is. And that's quite good because, since having kids, obviously me and Raul, we do like a lot of the DC stuff. And, that's a good question. But I think the problem is if I dressed up as him, I would look ridiculous at the moment, though I am on a diet. I would have to go with a classic, and that would be Spider-Man.
Yeah, well, he's certainly my favourite character, I think.
Yeah,
I think he's been in more films than the rest of them. Yeah.
So does Spider-Man, I think, counts as who I would dress up as, right?
Yeah.
Because I love Spider-Man, and to be honest with you, me and Raul, my son, we've watched all the Spider-Man movies, and we from start to finish, and they're good movies that you can watch like with a 10-year-old, if that makes any sense. It's quite hard to find a family demographic. But in terms of favorite character, I really, really, really like, but I can dress up as an Iron Man, I have to say.
Oh yes, that would be quite an expensive costume.
Yes, yeah, it would be. Yeah, and I don't know if they have an Iron Man with a midriff like mine either, so probably look a bit ridiculous, So
I think if you're in San Diego, you could probably get one made for you, because Americans aren't generally that slim, and I bet there's some huge Spider-Men going around in San Diego. Although I think in San Diego, it's in July in San Diego. It's going to be so hot in California, and so you'd want to choose a Spider-Man costume, wouldn't you? Really, because that's just lycra, and it's going to be the coolest of the lot.
Yeah.
But would you dress up as Iron Man in that kind of environment? And most of the costumes, I mean, if you dressed up as a Doctor Who, you wouldn't want to go as Tom Baker's Doctor Who, because he's got a hat and a scarf and a coat, and he's fully dressed up. You'd just melt in a costume like that.
Yeah.
And that might be one of the ones I'd go for, is Tom Baker's Doctor Who. I mean, that's Comic-Con in Malaga is going to be in September, towards the end of September. Might be a bit cooler, but it's still going to be warm.
It'll be warm. September's warm. It's still pool weather.
And the question is, do you dress up as one of the goodies or one of the baddies?
Definitely goodie. Definitely.
But what about the Joker? He's a classic one to dress up as. And which Joker do you go for? Do you go for the original, in the Michael Keaton Batman? Do you go for Jack Nicholson's Joker, or do you go for what's his name? Oh God, The other two.
Oh, the one that died, didn't it? What's his name?
Yeah,
It's
it's the two brothers, isn't it, that have played it?
I can't remember his name.
Oh
Though.
no. Oh. Oh well, River Phoenix, not River Phoenix.
No.
Was he the other Phoenix?
I watched it recently, actually. That would be an easier one to dress up as,
Yeah,
wouldn't it?
although I think I'd prefer to be the one not from the Marvel Universe one, but from the film The Joker. That's a good one because he's just a psychopathic comedian, and so that would be an easy one because if you get hot, the makeup's just going to run anyway, and it's all running all over his face. So yeah, that would be a classic. I'm not sure. I mean, favourite character, because I used to read the comics as a kid, Spider-Man again. But who else? Be great to dress up as Groot from the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, I forgot about Guardians of the Galaxy again. Another great series. I like that. That brought back a lot of '60s movies, music for younger people, didn't it? Which I mean, the soundtrack really, I thought it was great because it reached even people like me. Like we have the soundtrack on in the car when we're the kids, when we're doing our morning DJ run to school, you know, and they were choosing, and you suddenly got 8 and 10-year-olds choosing music from the '60s because they recognise it from a film. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant. I tell you, the costume to wear in the heat has got to be Thor.
Yes,
but you really need the muscles to carry that one off, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's good. I think I'd look like a ridiculous Thor, to be fair.
Yeah, and at my age, it would probably a more reasonable costume to wear would be one of the Jedi Knights, like the elderly Obi-Wan Kenobi or the old Luke Skywalker. Yeah. But then that's quite a thick costume as well. The older style one because it's a big coat, because he was wearing it when they filmed on an island off the coast of Ireland for the more recent Star Wars films. There's so much choice, isn't there? I mean, you've got the whole of the whole of Star Wars to choose from. Now that's so many in the Marvel universe. You've not just got the films, you've got the comics, and you've got the TV series as well.
Yes,
you've got tons of them. So, Heath Ledger, thank you, Ant and Kez. Heath Ledger's Joker, he was the man. And I think that is the most popular one to dress up as.
Yeah, that's a great film. The Hulk, maybe dress up as the Hulk.
Yeah. I mean, you could go easy and just dress up as one of the alter egos. Just dress up as Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Instead of Spider-Man, and you're just wearing normal clothes. Everybody says, "Yeah, but who are you dressed up as?" "Oh, Peter Parker," without the Spidey costume. You could just open the chest a little bit and have a little bit of Spidey costume underneath it. Yeah, just a secret one. "Who are you dressed up as?" And you just go, "Ah." Yeah, that's not a bad idea actually. But yeah, I'd dress up as Peter Capaldi's Doctor Who, given the chance, but he's tall and thin, and I don't think I would get the costume wouldn't look right on me. But he's one of the smartest ones.
Yeah, are you going to go then to this Comic-Con thing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If I can get a ticket, but to get it's not even tickets that you get. First of all, you've got to be a member, and you can't get in if you're not a member. That's free to be a member, so you register for that. And then there's a day and a time when you can buy a badge for any particular day or for the whole thing. And the badge has your name and your membership number on it, so it's non-transferable. So you can't sell them or anything like that. They're very, very careful with how many people can get them. And for the San Diego one, there are 2 dates, and if you've got last year's badge, you can apply during the first set of people to get in. So sometimes if you're just buying if you're a new member, it might be all full up by the time you try and get one. So there's episodes of Big Bang Theory where all 4 of them or 5 of them are on their computers going, that renew, tap 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 tap, trying to get the tickets on the day because they all sell out within a very short space of time.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm going to be doing that. So if you want to go and dress up, Liz is up for it.
I might do. I don't know about the. I might have to go on a bit of a diet before I get my Spidey costume, but I'm sure I can sort that out.
Yeah, we've got to do it. What are people saying on the things? Yeah, Heath Ledger. Man, David says Catwoman. Don't ask. That would be a great costume. Although probably very hot again because that's not latex. It's kind of it's really plasticky. Yeah. And Clark Kent. Yeah, go old school. Clark Kent. Superman. Superman would be a great one. And Batman, of course. Even if only to do the voice. I'll lean into the microphone and do it. I'm Batman.
I was between Batman and Spider-Man, but Spider-Man's just, I don't know. I think it's I do like the Batmans because you remember it when when you were a kid going to see the films and stuff like that. It was Batman, I think, was the first 12 rated film I saw when I was 12. You know, which one was it? You remember when they brought in between PG and 15, they brought in 12, didn't they?
Yeah.
That's got to be a few years ago because I've got a memory of, wow, I can actually go and see this film because I'm like 12. So that would have been.
So that was the first Batman, was it?
I don't know which one it is. We'd have to have a look at which film it was. It was the Batman 1990, which because I was born in 78. Right.
Okay.
So
I can't remember when the first one was.
I'm hoping that's not now a false memory. There you go. No, it was Batman 89, The Dark Knight and Gotham City Begins the War and Cry. So that was 89. That was a 12 rating, and I was 11. And I can always remember going, "Are we going to get in?"
Wow. So who was Batman in that one?
It's a weird memory, isn't it? That you can remember that. But I remember thinking, "Wow, you can get in to see this."
Who was playing Batman in that one? That was.
I can't remember that. I think it was
The Dark Knight. So that was. Thingy. He was one of the best ones actually. Michael Keaton's my favourite because he was the original for me.
That was Michael Keaton there.
No, that was the Batman with Jack Nicholson as the Joker. I think that was earlier than that.
No, that was it.
Was
that
it?
Was
that was that one. Oh, there you go then. That's a classic.
Yeah, that's the classic. I remember seeing that at the cinema thinking, wow, I'm big now. So that had Kim Basinger in it, didn't it? As the
that was the second one. That was the one with the Penguin, played by Danny DeVito, and Catwoman.
Right.
So the first one only had the Joker in it. There was only one baddie because he was bad enough on his own. Then everyone after that had two of them, and it just gradually it went. Val Kilmer was in the third Batman one, and then it was George Clooney, and we don't mention that one.
No, that was terrible. That was a terrible one, and it was the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger was a baddie.
That was the one, I think. Yeah,
that was terrible.
What was he called? Iceman or something like that?
Yeah,
Mr. Freeze. Yeah.
Mr. Freeze. Yeah, yes. It's
Yeah, Iceman would have been cooler, but no, Mr. Freeze.
Yeah,
but
sound like a popsicle.
Yeah, but that was the original name of the character in the comics, so they had to stick with it, I think. And that was the one with who was the what's her name? She was in Kill Bill as well.
Uma Thurman.
Uma Thurman, yeah.
Is it Uma? What's she called? Uma
Thurman.
Yeah, Uma Thurman.
And so she played Poison Ivy. That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were great characters in the comics.
They certainly were.
Yes. There we go then. So I think we've covered that sufficiently. Yeah. So we didn't give just one answer because it's not an easy one. There was a question from Jason, I think. Oh, Jason says, I think Scats would look good as Darth Maul. Absolutely, yes. He's the one with the red face and all the spiky devil horns. And of course, you get the double-ended lightsaber as well with Darth Maul. So yeah. Be a good makeup job. And but I imagine it would all start melting and the horns falling off unless you glued them on really, really well. They're talking, Jason says, yeah, I can answer this one. They're talking about 100% tax for non-residents, but that is possibly as a scare tactic. So I'd buy sooner rather than later if non-resident. That's not going to happen. In fact, even after that, it was within a week. Pedro Sanchez was talking about actually not allowing any non-residents, any non-Europeans, to buy new property anyway. But I think he's not going to get that one through Parliament. I can't imagine that would happen. So I think that's a case of politicians reaching too far, knowing that that's not going to be the final result, which is what a lot of politicians do.
Yeah, and then they say, "I was trying to do this for you, and then you've blocked it," and blah blah blah. And
Yeah, absolutely.
good tactic. That's what they use,
Absolutely. Oh, you could dress as Adam West's Batman. That's his, yeah. Or the Trotters, the Batman and Robin from Only Fools and Horses.
That's more like it. That's costumes that fit us. That's what we should do.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that costume, because that's all lycra except with just a, some kind of plastic belt and a.
Am I a bit taller than you? I have to be Rodney.
Yeah, you're a little bit taller than me. Yeah, I'd have to be Batman. Yeah, Adam West is quite tall. But yeah, if we did the Trotters, that would be good. The thing is, I've got the beard, so I couldn't wear the Batman outfit with the beard. I'd have to shave off. And you really need a really strong chin to play Batman.
Not Dell's Batman, you don't. If we're actually going as Del Boy and Rodney and Batman,
Yeah, that would be funny, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Got to find a freewheeler. I'm not registering any freewheelers in Spain. Don't tell me if you've got one. It's too much like hard work.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, enjoy that, everyone. I think that's all the questions. If you did, then of course don't forget to click on the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. That's unfortunately all we've got time for this week. And join me and Chris every 2 weeks for more expert advice about the new residency rules, and don't miss the shows in between either. I was going to say I'll tell you in a moment who your special guest will be next week, but I'll tell you now because Chris had a week off last week and we moved this one to this week. So Chris is back next week, and so we're back on the schedule. And Jason's saying Scats as Lex Luthor. I've got the bald head already. Yes. Yeah, because he's got if you do it as which Lex Luthor though? Who's got the best suit? Yeah, interesting. Oh, there's been quite a few Lex Luthors. Yeah, I'll have a think about that one. So Chris, what are we going to talk about next week? Which part is it? The Arrigo? Have we got time to research that, or should we do
we could easier? We could have a look. I'll see if I've got time this week to have a look into it. I did have big plans to do that this month. Unfortunately, I've been able to in the end. Don't know. What should we talk about next week? I'll have a look, see if I can. Well, I won't have time this weekend, to be honest.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Never mind. We'll think about it. So I'll tell you what. Everybody join the Facebook group, and we'll announce it on the Facebook group, and also on Chris's live show on the Thursday. We'll announce it then.
Yeah, because we haven't done a healthcare one in a while, because I get an awful lot of questions regarding when, where, how. EU, NLV, should I have it now? There's a lot of confusion about when the start date is from agents as well. I had one this week trying to sell a policy to a client of mine far too early. So that should be a show at some point, just to bring people up to speed with that, because we've had
that's the one.
We've had a lot of problems in a certain region as well with it, and the structure of the certificate and what you have to produce, and we could definitely ramble on about that.
Okay, and the S1, of course, that's all part of that.
That's all part of that, and that goes across all residency platforms as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Let's say, unless we come up with something sparkling and current and better than that, then we'll go for that for next week.
Yeah, because that also relates to the withdrawal agreement renewals and also another requirement that we've had for the non-lucrative visa with past proof that you have been covered over the last 2 years, which we've never seen before, and we've had that this week as well. So yeah, there you go. Might be a good idea.
Cool. So you can ask questions in advance on the Facebook group, as I said, or you can. Let's see, you can ask even in the comments of this video, and we'll catch those questions and put them up next week. That's in case you can't be part of the show, whether you're watching live or not. But if but do watch live. Then you can respond and wave and feel that you're all part of it too. And Jason said, I did ask about the S1. It'll save for next week. Jolly good. We can answer that then. So thanks to all of you for joining us and leaving comments and hitting the like button and supporting us with donations and memberships. And everybody give a wave and a big hug and a kiss to Chris for being wonderful as usual. And I'll either see you for the midweek video at 6 o'clock Spanish time on Wednesday, or for one of my YouTube shorts. Usually there's one of those comes out on Friday. I put it out a bit earlier, about 3 o'clock yesterday. And alternatively, live on Saturday mornings at the regular time of 10 o'clock Spanish time, or 9 o'clock if you're in the UK or Ireland or Portugal or the Canaries. And that is all for this week. Oh, yes, we forgot to do the prize. Who hasn't had a prize yet, and who did the best suggestions or questions? Jason's Web, have you had one of the Chris's prizes before? There's Andy Elmer. I don't think you've had a prize before. Are you still with us on the live chat? And if you are, send an email to Chris on, what's the best email address, Chris? You
can do YouTube at upsticks.es if you like. That works.
Perfecto.
You do YouTube at, I should do you one really. I should say YouTooSpain at upsticks.es, but YouTube at the upsticks.es, he says now as he's checking. Yeah, it does. That works. Yes,
and give you the address to send your prize to and your contact details.
I need an address and a phone number. It can be in the UK, it can be in Spain. If it's in Spain, then you get a slightly better bag, because there's certain things we can't send to the UK. But if you get sent to the UK, we have been, and it is getting away with it. Basically, it's getting away with it because you're not really allowed to send this. But because this can be folded down and looks like an envelope, we put it in one of our folders, say it's documents, and so far so good. So and if you're in Spain, I might chuck a couple of other things in there which we're not allowed to send to the UK.
Brilliant. So that's Jason from Jason's Web and Andy Aylmer. There you go. Hope you're still listening. And I know Jason's on there. Oh, it was many years ago. He said he had a notebook. Yeah, it's about time you got the new pack then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you've asked loads of questions today and been a regular person on the live chat. So brilliant. There we go. So that is all for this week. Somebody pass around the financial requirement cookies. Don't hog them. Peace and love. You don't normally get to be on the very end of the show, do you, Chris?
No, I'm happy to be here.
Here we go. So here's one final message again from all of the voices in my head here at YouTooSpain. Goodbye for now.
Wave goodbye, lads. Bye. Goodbye. Toodaloo. Peace and love. Peace and fluff. Oi, oi. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. One more cosmic dance? All right, then. Look, Mum, I'm dancing. Oh, I'm all a quiver. Let's dance.